Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we're going to be working on a Cadillac. It's a 2002 with the 4.6 liter engine. The problem we have is that the water pump is leaking. Now you're probably looking at the water pump thinking, how the heck do you even get in there, let alone replace it? It's a little bit tight to work on, but it's really not that bad. Well, let me rephrase that. It shouldn't be that bad. As they get older, you never know what you're going to run into. But you do need some special tools in order to take this pump off. When you look it up on the computer, it tells you you're going to need two special tools. One of them is a tool like this. This is the one section of it, and this is the other section of it. Basically what you do is you take the cover off of the water pump housing, you put this on the pump, you bolt this onto the housing, and then you get in through there with a 1/2-inch drive ratchet, and you rotate the pump out. The pump itself looks like this. The pump fits into the engine this direction. I will show you down there. To me, this makes sense. To you, it probably doesn't. But this goes inside there. This tool fits over the top just like this, as you can see. This piece bolts over the top like that. And then you get in here with a wrench and you rotate the water pump out. And well, of course, when you put the new one back in, then you rotate the new pump back in. Sounds easy, it's a little bit tight, but it's really not that bad. So, all right, enough talking. We are going to drain this system out, and then we're going to start to take it apart so we can get this job done. You will need a tool like this one here. This is actually to get onto the snap ring type clamps that are actually on there. So we'll use this to open up the clamp, and we'll pull it out of the way. Now, if you don't have this one, it's not a big deal. You can actually get on there with a pair of pliers, and you can squeeze it together with pliers, and you should be able to get it out. So, all right, let me bring you in now. I'm going to show you the rest of the tools you're going to need, and then we're going to get started and get this job done. Okay, this is an example of what you're going to be needing. You're going to need, of course, some ratchets. I'm using just the ratcheting wrenches, just a few wrenches I have here, a set of sockets, screwdriver, an extension, and that's pretty much all you're going to need. And of course, a bucket to drain your antifreeze into. This is where your water pump is located. It's down inside this area right over here. As you can see, or maybe you can't see, the fan belt runs around the water pump. This is how the pump is located. It's in there like this. All right, so that's how the pump is in there. We have to get that cover off to get to the pump. So everything that you see in here is going to be removed. This, as you can see, I started pulling this out. I wasn't going to film it because it's a little bit busy today, but I figured what the heck, I might as well. All right, so this cover we're going to take out of the way. We're going to remove the air intake, the air breather assembly here, and then we'll continue with it. So, all right, let's get started, and we're going to continue with it. Okay, so we did take all of these clips out so we can get this this cover here up and out of our way, so we have a little more room to work. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the snorkel here, and we'll pull this out. Now, somebody has already pulled these pieces out and broke them out of the way here, so I don't know how this is going to come out, but we'll see how it goes. Try not to block you, but we'll see. Hope you can see okay. Okay. What we're going to do, just so you know, is we're going to take that hose clamp right there. This clamp we're going to take off. We're going to remove this upper hose to give us a little more room to work in here. We're going to remove this cover off right here, and then we'll take off this right here, and then we'll continue. We're just taking this bolt off here so we can loosen up the this coolant line so we can move it out of our way. We're just going to pull that hose off. Okay, we are going to remove this this emission valve right here, and we're going to take this cover off right here at the same time. Now, it's a little bit slippery when it's wet, so you want to make sure you don't drop the bolts. We're going to take this valve out. Make sure you don't drop the gasket that goes with it. This gasket right here, so we're going to relocate this to the side for now. And now we can take off this, this bracket right here, 10 millimeter. You can use a wrench, you can use a ratchet, whatever you want. I think that battery's dying, if I'm not mistaken. So we are going to stop and we're going to change the battery on this. Yep, we're going to change the battery. All right. Okay, welcome back. Okay, so now we have that tube. We're just going to move it just a little bit. It looks like there's one more 10 millimeter. We're going to disconnect that other 10 millimeter there. This off to the side too. This. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this cover off right here. We're just going to take out those 10 millimeter screws. One more up on top right here. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the fan belt from here. Just take that belt like that for now. Not going to do anything with the belt. They don't want to change the belt, so we're leaving the old one on. Now we're going to take out these two bolts right here to on the top, the 10 millimeters, just so we can take that cover off. Normally, it's a good idea, if you had this apart, to change the thermostat, but the customer doesn't want to change the thermostat. They don't want to spend the extra money, so we're not going to be doing that. So we'll put this off to the side for now. Okay, let me just change my gloves and we'll come right back. Okay. Now, after we have that off, we're going to take this tool and we're going to put it in here, just where it's supposed to be now. And then we're going to mount this one back on where it belongs. Just like that. And I'm going to screw a bolt in there and there to hold it while I remove the pump. And now before we tighten it, we'll catch that other bolt in here. I hope you can see okay there. Now we're just going to snug these bolts down. We don't have to make them real tight. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put a tool in there like that. Now this is a clockwise removal and a counterclockwise installation. Now you can either use a breaker bar to break it loose, or you can use a regular ratchet. I'm using a breaker bar because, as you can see, it's pretty tight sometimes. Now you could use just a regular ratchet. You could use just a regular ratchet to do it, but the breaker bar is a little easier. All right, now after you break it loose, we're going to take this out. And now we're going to remove this tool that we previously installed. It is always slippery when you have antifreeze. on everything, especially when you're wearing rubber gloves, because the antifreeze makes it even slipperier, if there's such a word. Now we have our bolts back where they came from, and now we're going to remove the bracket first. And now we're just put it aside. We're going to take our tool out temporarily, and then we're going to remove our water pump, and that's how you get the pump out. And where this one was leaking was right on the very bottom, right in here. That's where it was leaking from, right there. All right, so let me get in here. We're going to clean everything up real well. I'll show you. Well, I hope you can see in there. You know what? Let's take these gloves off again. I'll bring you in there. Okay, what's real important is we need to clean up, take that ring right out there, clean this up really well so we don't have any leaks when we put this back together. And we're going to clean this up right here too. We're going to use a disc to clean this up. So we're going to clean it up, we're going to pull that out, and then we'll come back when we're ready to put it back together. Okay, now well, I will tell you this. Before I put this new pump back inside here, I did change that O-ring. That O-ring right inside there, I don't know if you can see it, but there's an O-ring right in there. I did change the O-ring, I cleaned out the groove, and now I installed the new O-ring in place. You're supposed to put it in dry, but I always put a little dab of adhesive on there to hold it in place. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the pump back through here. We're going to position it approximately to where it has to line up, and then we're going to bolt on our cover over the top of it. So we're just going to put this in here. I will tighten this with that tool just to make sure it's in place. But just remember, when you look at the pump, you see how they're all the same except the one. That's the one that goes to the 7 o'clock position, and then we lock it in place. Now I will put that cover on and tighten it up to make sure. It felt like it went in all the way, but I'm not taking any chances. So we're going to reattach this. Remember, we're just going to snug the covering. We don't have to tighten it tight. Okay. Now remember, we locked it in. We're locking it in clockwise. I'm sorry, we're locking it in counterclockwise. Okay, now it is locked in. Right? We'll take our cover back off, that we take our tool back off. Take our tool out. And now our water pump is locked in place. Okay, nice and tight, spins nice and freely. And now, before I go any further, we're going to put this belt back on. Now this belt is a fairly easy belt to put on. A lot of times you can just pull it by hand to get it on. That didn't go on all the way, so I am going to need a wrench just to pry this up a little bit. Just so I can get the belt on the rest of the way where it belongs. Like that. All right. So now we have our belt on. We have it around the water pump down the bottom. Look down inside here to make sure that it's on correctly. Okay. Okay, now, I just want to point this out to you too. You see I cleaned up this surface here already? This is our cover. I did put a new O-ring in here already. Now a lot of guys use sealant on here. You can use a very thin bead of sealant if you wanted to, which I might do because of the condition of this. So I'm going to put a very thin bead of sealant on here, very, very thin, and then we'll put this back together. And then we'll put our cover back on the way we previously took it off, being careful not to knock that gasket out. Then we're going to get that fourth bolt back in. Just make sure you don't drop anything. This is our fourth one. Okay, now we have to, all four of them are caught and fairly snug. We can tighten everything up. Now remember, you're only screwing a little 10mm screw in there. You don't want to over tighten it and break anything. Okay. Now our water pump is done. I got to change my gloves again. So let me change my gloves and we'll come right back. Okay, now that we had this tightened in over here, we actually did slide this tube here back on. We put those two clamps on. I did put the lower hose back on also. And the reason they didn't come back right away is I cleaned this up here because this was all oxidized, so I cleaned this up as well. All right, so the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to reattach our cover over the top right here. And you recall that this just went over the top just like this. Last but not least, we'll tighten this up. Okay. And now that cover is back on. All right, next thing we're going to do now is we're going to reinstall this bracket here that we previously took off. Remember, we have to screw it back into that tube right there. So we're going to put this down here where it belongs. So now everything is tight on there. Last but not least, we're going to put this tube back on here where it came off, like this. And we're going to move our clamp back up. Okay, we're going to reconnect our vacuum hose. All right, so now we have everything reconnected. We have our valve back on. We have our cover back on. We tightened up all the bolts. Lower hose is on. The hose for the heater is back reconnected. Next thing we're going to do now is we're going to reconnect this hose here. I do like using these spring clamps back over again if I can, because they actually hold constant pressure. I'm going to push that down a little bit further. And then we'll release it like that. Okay, so that's all back together now. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our box back in here, and then we're going to reconnect the the cruise control. So let me lay that back in there. Okay. All right, we're going to take our cruise control. We're going to reinstall it where it came out, lock it in place, reattach our connectors. All right, so now let me just explain to you what I'm going to do. All right, so once you have everything reconnected, you make sure everything is tightened up here, your mass air is reconnected, your cruise control is connected, all your bolts are tight. The filter assembly is back in place, hoses are connected. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to fill it with antifreeze, and then we're going to fire this thing up. So, all right, let me put some antifreeze in it, and we're going to run it for a little bit. Okay, so that's it. Everything is back together. I am filling it up with antifreeze now. I am going to start it. We're going to make sure there's no leaks underneath the bottom. We're going to make sure that the antifreeze is circulating and is warm inside the overflow recovery. And that's it, we're all set. So you're going to want to rinse it down with water just to make sure you don't have any residual antifreeze laying in there. But that's pretty much it. All right, if you have any questions or comments, you want to talk to me about anything, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to talk to anybody about anything. As always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.